Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to Armored Warfare for this topic video, which I had hoped originally to have up a little bit sooner, but due to time constraints, I had to delay this one as I was wanting to get some more thoughts written out and having a little bit of a perhaps logical discussion and breaking down through things and having some structure. So, this video is to summarize my experience with the game Armored Warfare. And over the, I think I've played over a year and a half now. I still consider myself a bit of a noob to the game. I mean, I have up to tier 9 tanks now, or 2, I guess I should say. As I mainly play World of Warships, and then I wanted to play something different on the side. So some of my friends talked me into playing Armored Warfare, and I've been playing it mostly for PvE. But I have now roughly 275 hours invested into the game, so wanted to share my thoughts as FlimsyLunchTray, and talking about I'll start off with the summary, but then the positives and negatives I feel I have seen experienced and with the game over these 275 hours played in about a year and a half in terms of timeline. And I also invite your comments and discussion below. So let's just crack right on into it. So I think first I want to make a disclaimer to Armored Warfare. If you are watching this video, I welcome you to comment below if you have anything to add or say, or maybe it needs to be a critiquing, or maybe I share something that's not fully accurate that needs further explanation. As any input you would want to share in the video, I do welcome, I think not just for myself, but for those who would be watching this video. So let's first just kind of, if you're newer, you don't really know what Armored Warfare is about. Let me just first explain what Armored Warfare is, and this is going off of Steam, what they also have for here. So Armored Warfare, it is, make sure I say this correctly. Yeah, it's an MMO. It's a tank game. It's a play for free, right? And then of course there's things you can buy, purchase in games, so on and so forth. But some of their description they have is that it's a wage war against players around the world with an unstoppable arsenal of powerful armored combat vehicles. Use over 300 vehicles to engage in furious PvP, tank combat, complete co-op missions, and crush your enemies on breathtaking maps. We'll talk about the maps shortly. From scorching deserts to neon-drenched urban jungles. So going a little bit more down here about the game, they explain that Armored Warfare is a free-to-play MMO with a story-driven elements, where you can engage in explosive online tank battles against players around the world or team up to defeat AI-controlled enemies. Now, the PvE in this game, which I'll talk about, it's really good. And they do a really good job with story-driven elements, and they've even noted that a lot of people's, majority of their player base seems to lean towards the PvE with the different scenarios, so on and so forth. You become a soldier of fortune and complete missions. From simple capture and escort objectives to complex story-driven PvE campaigns. So maybe you have like a PvE that campaign that's 4 chapters long, so to kind of lengthen it out. Armored Warfare features deep immersive lore when corporations rule the world, hiring mercenary groups such as yours to wage war. Armored Warfare features large-scale battlefields full of armored vehicles and infantry, from massive 15 versus 15 PvP matches to smaller 5-man operations. Armored Warfare does have something for everybody. So that's the Steam explanation of it. Now, when looking at the reviews on Steam, which have just disappeared from my eyes, the recent reviews is mostly positive. All reviews would say it's a bit of a mixed. Release date was the 8th of October 2015, at least here on Steam. Developers were including Obsidian Entertainment, and then Wishlist Games, also being the publisher as well on top of that developer. But since then, the game or the developer Obsidian Entertainment hasn't been involved here with Armored Warfare, if that remains true, because that was a part of the whole conversation around when there was something blew up, I think a few years ago, when they decided the publisher, sorry, maybe I'm getting a little foggy here on my memory and details. They kind of ceased the work with Obsidian Entertainment, and so I think it kind of took a nosedive after that. There's a whole video around. I did a video on Is the Game Dead? And I can link it at the end, and maybe I can put a little chapter note on the top right if I remember to do that. So yeah, so that's about Armored Warfare in summary. So let's go ahead and let me just dive right into the positives and the negatives that I have thus far about the game. Maybe there's something I think of later on either of the two, but I'll start off being nice with the positives. So I have to make a disclaimer that I don't really interact much with the PvP. I kind of get my feel with World of Warships on that. Now, maybe some of you say, no, Flimsy, why didn't you go play World of Tanks? Well, two reasons. One is because wargaming. And I wasn't interested in War Thunder because it's the developer or whatever with that too. Was it? Yeah, I can't remember their name. I feel like I want to say it, but I don't want to say it wrong. I want something different. Wargaming just so monetized driven, and then their crew rework was looking super bad when they keep bringing it back and offering it, and I think now maybe it's going to be a bit better. But it was just, you know, Wargaming is just, they're a piece of work. That's all I have to say about them. So I wanted to break from Wargaming, do something different, right? So when Armored Warfare came up, I was like, yeah, I was a little unsure about it at first. But I would say overall, I have had a positive experience with the game. It depends on what you want out of the game, right? So for me, I mainly do the PvE. Now, this game is PvE rich, player versus environment. The AI that you fight against is like really good. Like, it's not like the AI in World of Warships. I mean, granted, it's warships playing, it's not tanks. It sucks. And I've even heard people say that if you play against the AI in World of Tanks, it's not so great. And I've heard much more compliments in terms of how the AI functions with the enemy bots that you would face off here in Armored Warfare. And so it's like, if you mess up, like, you just absolutely get punished for it. And so the AI bots is really great, but the PvE they've invested a lot into, I would say. Whether you're talking about the many different operations, different maps, the campaigns, the storylines, right? There's just enough that keeps me very engaged in terms of the PvE. Where not so much if I was to compare it with World of Warships, but I don't want to make this comparison between the two. But it's just really nice, and I really like it because my main goal, if I can say, or what I want to get out of this game in terms of the positives, is I just want to be able to relax. I want to play with my friends. I don't want to be all sweaty, try hard, that kind of thing. And I just wanted to have it as a mental break, disengage. So the PvE has been really rich in that, and I think that's a great positive here in Armored Warfare. Now, I did talk a little bit, I hinted at this. The other thing I would say is very much a positive. You know, it's not wargaming. It's not gachi. Here, just a second. Let's see. Who makes War Thunder? Who's the publisher or whatever? Gaijin Entertainment. Okay, so Armored Warfare is not Gaijin, if I'm saying that right, and it's not wargaming. Okay, that to me is just an immediate like bonus right there, that it's not either of those two. You know, whether it be monetization and poor developer decisions, which I really think both are subject to. I think there was something in War Thunder not too long ago that was really killing, I think, the currency in the game, where you could play really epic and like get paid very little, which, I mean, even World of Tanks has that a bit. But then you have a lot of dumb developer decisions going on both parties, right? But both of those platforms, regardless of that, right, both of those, War Thunder and, you know, when we're talking about World of Warships, World of Tanks, they have a much larger audience, right? A lot more players than what you have here on Armored Warfare. So it's just a positive. It's not wargaming. It's not gaijin. The third thing I have to say is a positive is just the battle path in Armored Warfare is really worth it. You get so much from the game, whether you're talking about picking up premium tanks, boosters, earning the battle coins from playing, completing missions, challenges, events, and being able to utilize, you then save a lot of it up. You buy unique skins, which I mean, some skins can be like ridiculously a lot, depending on the tier of tank and so on and so forth, and the design of the skin. But the battle path, even though, like, let's say for myself, maybe I play just a couple games a day. It might be a day here and there. I don't play Armored Warfare, but just let's say I play like 2 to 5 games a day. Like, it's actually still really worth the battle path. It's in terms of the rewards you get out of it, and that it lasts a long time, like more than a month. I think sometimes it's like maybe up to 2 months. Still getting used to that and figuring out their timeline with it. But it's just really nice, rounded out, I would say. So if you play Armored Warfare, the battle path, I think, is really, or other games might refer to it as a battle pass, but battle path is very much worth the investment, and what type of rewards and that you pick up from. And of course, it's also really great having battalions, right? When you have these massive MMO games and being able to form, if it's here in Armored Warfare, it's a battalion, or you're talking about in World Warships like a clan, whatever terminology the different games use, so you can find groups of other people to play with from all over the world. So for myself, I just recently joined a battalion, finally. Actually, I held out for a long time, and I'm having a good time playing with the guys that I'm already begun playing with. So you get to have that interaction, of course, with people around the world, but then it's really, in Armored Warfare, I would say, because there's not a massive, there's not a lot of players that play the game. The game is still very much alive, and I've talked about that in my Is the Game Dead video, but just looks different perhaps than other games in terms of the development. But just being able to come into a battalion really helps you be able to play with others. If you're doing a ranked, you're doing the special operations, and you have teammates who know the positioning and what's going to happen next, as you have to do a lot of coordinating. Otherwise, the PvE operation can just completely fall apart. So battalions is a really great place to be able to engage and work with others. Other positives, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add in my mind beyond what I had in my notes. Not too, I guess the last thing I would say is that I feel that it's friendly to newer players. It takes a little bit once, spend some time in the garage or your home base screen, whatever terminology you want to use, but it's called garage in Armored Warfare. Click around, learn where things are at, whether we're talking about missions or armaments, how you modify, upgrade your vehicle, adding camo, decals. There's just a lot of buttons on the home screen, so it can be really, the garage screen, so it can be overwhelming at first. But if you just take your time and understand it, then I think it's good. It's not like crazy bad. I've seen, like, I watch Quickie Baby play World of Tanks, and sometimes when I see the garage screen there or whatever, it just like looks really overwhelming to me. But I don't know how I would say it compares here to Armored Warfare. Now the negatives, moving on, is that in terms of if you're wanting a PvP, probably I would say Armored Warfare is not for you. You'd probably be much better off in War Thunder or World of Tanks. We're going to have a lot more. One is you're going to have a lot more players in the server, right? And then you're going to be able to have a lot more engagement with PvP. One of the things that is also a negative in terms of the player base is, this is probably adding on here as another point, is the time zone in which you play in. So, like, for example, if you live in North America and you get on evening your time to play, Europe is basically already gone to sleep. And so there can be a lack of players on the server at that time, so then the queues are a lot longer. So some of my North American friends, they actually like to play earlier in the day when it's evening time here in Europe. Otherwise, the queue times can just be a lot longer. So that's a negative on the game there as well. So a second negative, I would say. third is, this is a small thing, but I'm going to bring it up and talk about it anyhow, is the booster slots and how you work this is annoying. I'll try to throw maybe a picture here on the screen. So I think probably every Armored Warfare player has done this, and it'd be such a simple fix for Armored Warfare to the devs to change this if they're watching or interested to change this. So when you go and you go to use your boosters, right? When you're looking at what you have in your inventory and you want to activate some of your stuff. So for example, let's say I want to activate, I think it's called a 12-hour, it's like a glory booster, I think is what it's called. I'll activate that in the primary slot. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to play for at least 2 hours. Let me activate a coin booster, a battle coin booster. And then you'll click on that, and there's a second slot that's underneath the primary slot. I can't remember what the slot is, but you'll see it on the screen here. And it won't automatically move. Like, so you've activated your battle coin, or sorry, your 12-hour glory booster, which gives you, like, you know, XP credits, all that crew XP, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then when you go to activate your battle coin booster, it doesn't move it down to the next second slot. So what you do is you activate a battle coin booster, and if you didn't move it, it overrides your 12-hour glory booster, and you completely just wasted your 12-hour glory booster and replace it with your battle coin booster, because you can put the battle coin booster in the second slot. I think it's the premium slot, and it costs you 0 gold. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. But if you're not paying attention, like what I did the first time, I might actually done this twice, honestly. I didn't select the second slot, and I just overrode the first slot, and I completely wasted my 12-hour glory booster. So I would love to see Armored Warfare change that so it wouldn't happen. I don't know whatever reasons they have, but I'm pretty sure practically all players in the game have accidentally done that. And it's annoying because if you're not thinking about it, you know, you're talking with your friends on Discord chat, whatever, and you're like, hey, let me activate some boosters real quick, and then you just, you know, just waste a 12-hour glory booster, or, you know, whatever other booster you may have had in the first slot completely by accident, just because it doesn't move it to the second slot. Some of the other boosters, when you put in the premium slot, it might cost you a little gold to run 2 boosters simultaneously, but, you know, it gives you the option, like, hey, do you want to be spending this much gold, whatever. Sure, yeah, I'll pay the 25 gold, whatever. So that's a little annoying thing. The other thing I would say is, yeah, let me talk about this one. It's a little bit bigger. Being careful of the environment. So what I mean by that, I'll throw a clip on the screen here, and you never know what object or non-object you hit on the map will cause absolute havoc. So I think probably what I have playing on the screen right now, I was booking down on this map in my T249, I think that's what it was, and I hit some, I don't even know what you call it, just some metal bars into the ground. I don't remember if it was part of an antenna array or what, because it'd been a while, and my AFV got caught in it, and I could not get out of it, and then I'm just stuck, and I'm like in the air, and my tank's just like completely glitching out, going insane, and unless maybe someone came by and hit me really hard, would that get me unstuck? Right, and that was super frustrating. There was another time when I first started playing the game, I don't know if I did this as a short, but I was playing a tank that apparently had some glitches with it, and I drove over like my tracks on the long side of a concrete wall, and it just completely spun my tank like on its side, and then I'm just glitching back and forth. I can't shoot, can't do nothing, and I die. There will be other times where there's no object. They had this in the rate of decay in the start when you're you're driving out of the tunnel, and for a while there's supposed to be a dead tank sitting there. There's just a burnt black spot, and there would be no dead tank there, but you'd just see this black spot, and you would just ram an invisible object, you know, the invisible Batmobile, whatever, and you'd be like, what the heck? And then sometimes it'd be there, and then other times it wouldn't not be there. You could visually see it and not. So even though visually it was disappeared, you couldn't see it, you had to learn, you know, second, third time, oh, I have to drive around. There'll be other times I'll be driving along just like map terrain, like a hill, and somehow like the tracks of my Abram like get caught, like I can see almost like kind of beginning to go into the map. So It's really frustrating. I feel like that's a very surface level thing to figure out in terms of the environments, because it's not just like if you're playing PvP, PvE, it's not just, you know, the reds you have to look out for. It's the map itself will just absolutely like mess you up if you ram an object too fast and then you get absorbed into that object. You're driving, you know, over a partial hill coming out of the ground, and then your track just starts disappearing, and then you're getting caught. Of course, I know that there are some tanks that sit really low, and so you can get stuck. I think, was it the T80U or something like that? A lot of players were getting stuck in like little entrenchments and stuff with that. But the maps are just not friendly. You basically always looking to avoid running into things, generally speaking. Now, you can tend to lightly tap something and you're fine, but you just don't know what's going to happen. And there's even like on Rate of Decay towards the end, there's this like big concrete tower, and you think you're safe, but the enemy bots can still shoot through it. So it's just like fundamental things in terms of the map design, like, hey, maybe just kind of practice driving around, or, you know, I'm not a game developer, I don't know, but that's something that's I would say is a negative on the game. This other thing, it's another minor thing, but when they do server maintenance, sometimes it can take longer than expected, which can be a bit frustrating. So they'll have these, let's see if I can go to the right official announcements here and go back forward in time. Yeah, so like, for example, on the 26th of December 2023, starting at 4, I guess that's AM Central Eastern CET, the server will not be available for 6 hours due to planned server maintenance. Okay, and then Commander's maintenance will be extended by 1 hour. Commander's maintenance will be extended by 30 more minutes. 1 more hour it is, and so they just keep pushing back and back and back, and then like now it's available. So there'll be times where you get a little frustrated when they do server maintenance, that they just don't give themselves enough time. Again, this is a small thing. It's just a little critique. You know, I'd rather them just give themselves more time rather than, you know, there's players ready to come back into the game and they have to keep waiting. I mean, you see people complain in the Armored Warfare discussions on their Discord server about it when it does happen. And then I think this is probably the... Well, they don't have full responsibility on this, but we had an issue back in, was it end of November, beginning of December, where the game was experiencing a lot of DDoS attacks. Basically, what that means is it's a distributed denial of service. So attack, it's a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal traffic of a targeted server, service, or network by overwhelming the target or surrounding infrastructure with a flood of internet traffic. DDoS attacks achieve effectiveness by utilizing multiple compromised computer systems as source of attack traffic. Exploited machines can include computers and other network resources such as IoT devices. From a high level, a DDoS attack is like an unexpected traffic jam clogging up the highway, preventing regular traffic from arriving at its destination. So there was some guy, I think it was in the Middle East, and he was just attacking the server like almost, I don't know if it was like every day, but I'd be playing up with my friends and then the map just go haywire, you know, because there's another DDoS attack. So you just never knew, like, if you activated a booster, like, am I actually going to get my 2-hour booster in before the game gets, the server gets DDoS attacked again, right? And I was looking in here, and there was, I think, a little bit more of an exclamation here by Silent Stalker. Let's see, does he have they give him a position? Admin staff. They're talking a little bit about this. And one of the things he talked about was, sadly, this is almost never our fault. What is this? Is this a yeah, oops. Talking about... Wait, no. Sorry, give me just a moment. Let's see, let me go back to that comment again. So he's talking about with the work with my.games infrastructure seems to be having like problems lately, not even counting the DDoS attacks. So there was some work they were doing to try to figure this out, but it was like super expensive. And I think they moved. This is my memory's a little fuzzy here. It's like they moved, like, for example, if you have like a hamster in a cage and he's like running on the thing, they like put the hamster in a different cage. Like, I think they moved the server or something like that. Like, this is just really layman terms. I'm not a professional when it comes to this type of discussions, but there was just a lot of this DDoS attacks happening. And so that was really frustrating, and there wasn't very much per se that they could necessarily do about it. But it didn't seem that again, my lack of understanding here, that the like security they had was very high, whether that's on the publishers, devs on Armored Warfare's ends, or also the other server services that they're using, third parties, for example, with this. So that was a very frustrating time in playing Armored Warfare, but I don't think they haven't had a DDoS attack, I think, for over a month or 2 months, almost now a month and a half, something like that. So that was frustrating time when that happened. So if Armored Warfare is watching this video, if maybe just even responding to what I just said there, maybe there's some clarification, something I didn't say that was fully accurate there, or just kind of assuring perhaps that there's been some investment there, so maybe that's something we don't have to worry about as much, because I think that pushed some players away from the game, because a lot of people were getting fed up playing the game and just not being, like, I didn't play for several days because it's like it was happening almost like every day. It was so frustrating. Now, the other thing to talk about here, and then we're going to wrap the video up, this is my perception. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but this is my perception, that in general, when we're talking about, whether the conversation is the game dead, so on and so forth, I think the game is still alive, it's still active, they're still putting out updates, there's still a player base population, maybe not as much as it was earlier on, but there is still things happening in terms of a general investment into the game. However, it's not like they're doing game-breaking changes, game-breaking updates. It's kind of keeping things, like keeping the hamster fed, keeping the hamster watered, into just like some general fundamental things into the game, but nothing that's like mind-boggling, like, hey, we're going to invest X, Y, Z, as we're going to improve, I don't know, maybe talking about a big graphics improvement, right? But then you start talking about the engine the game is generated out of, because like in World of Warships, like they're using the same engine, and so they're pushing it to its limits probably now until they decide to do a new engine, right? But sometimes it just feels like there's a lack of investment into just general mechanics into the game, like talking about the UI. Sometimes you just get completely kicked out from the game, and then like other friends are still in the game. It's like, what the heck? Like, is this something on my end? Checking your computer. And then maybe this lack of like not thoroughly checking through like map futures and just random bugs that come up. So that's a little bit of a downside, or a negative, I guess I should say. But I think that really wraps up my positives and negatives list. Maybe the negatives I had a little bit more in mind. Some of them are not like, it's not like these terrible, horrible things. Like, if you're not super invested into the game, maybe it's okay. If you really want a well-running, fluid, flawless machine, then I think there's definitely going to be times where just Armored Warfare is going to fail in that category, or won't meet your expectations if you put a lot of high expectations on this game. Or for myself, it's kind of just coming more into the game, unwinding, just being able to play, de-stress, kind of focusing more on the PvE content in the game, not so much the PvP. And for me, that works well. The game has been a positive for me and how I would just view this game, interact with this game. I would have in general, a positive review, not like a mind-boggling 10 out of 10. Like, even if you wanted me to give a score, like, I don't know, maybe I'd just say like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, something like that. Because one is I just don't have high expectations on the game. But in terms of just a general tank game, if you don't want to play anything compared to, you know, you don't want to mess with World of Tanks with Wargaming, you don't want to mess with War Thunder with Gaijin. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but you know what I mean. I've never played War Thunder before, but if you don't want to mess with those two, then I would say Armored Warfare is probably a good option to go with. So yeah, so I think that's just going to bring the video wrapped up. So really let me know. I would be interested in having conversation in the comments below, as you know, we're getting over almost like 30 minutes now. If you have positive things about the game, you have negatives about the game. I mean, I know people are going to say this game is just dead. I mean, I would just say factually it's not. Like, they're still investing into the game. They still have a company. There's still staff that work on the game. There's still new updates coming out. Yes, the player server population is quite lower compared to other games. Maybe even much lower than what this game used to have, especially maybe when Obsidian was more involved. Yeah, so I think one of the things I heard said about this our Armored Warfare, you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but someone, I think I don't know if it's another YouTube video I was watching on Armored Warfare, and they said what it felt like was to them is that like Obsidian like really wanted to go further with the game and developing it and making it something different from World of Tanks as an example. And it felt like to them, I think this was a previous staff member, what they really wanted to is that they wanted to just take a cut of the pie from the World of Tanks server population, and that was it. Like, wasn't aspiring to do something game-breaking, game-founding into a different direction. Maybe the way I would, in my perception, I would phrase, in my experience, what I know of World of Tanks versus Armored Warfare is just the PvE content is really rich in Armored Warfare compared to World of Tanks, and that's just generally speaking. I'm not a professional. I could be completely wrong, but from my perceptions and what I see, as I watch a lot of Quickie Baby playing World of Tanks and stuff like that, this game is very PvE rich. So if the players out there who really want to just be involved in more of that PvE meta and you don't really like the PvP, so when it comes to tanks, I would say Armored Warfare probably does really well in that category, generally speaking. So that being said, if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate those of you who support me on Patreon. And please add any clarification. If I said something wrong, I totally expect maybe I did say one or two things wrong, or maybe didn't have the full accuracy or clarity on what I was sharing on. So that's why I like the community. So I'll just invite you, please be respectful in the comments and as we have this chat and discussion. So until next time, take care.